Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Merritt. I'm the director of the Institute for Rural Affairs at Western Illinois University, also a board member of Rural Partners. And it's my great pleasure today to introduce to you from the Corn Belt Ports Executive Coordinating Team, Bob Sinkler, Chris Smith, and Anshu Singh, who will be speaking about the Corn Belt Ports update after the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill. So Bob, please take it away.
So yeah, can you hear me okay?
Much better.
Okay, yeah, so I'll run through these slides in about 20 minutes. So in 2019, several of us, several interested parties decided to join together and get ports federally recognized inside the lock and dam system. This particular group, we're real appreciative of them last year in September, asking us to give you an update on where we were going. This year, what we want to do is give you an update on what we've accomplished over the last year, and talk a little bit about the way ahead. So I volunteered to be the executive coordinating director for the Corn Belt Ports to get them federally recognized. I'll just spend a little bit of time talking about where we've come from. And then I'll turn it over to Chris Smith, who's the current operations director for the Corn Belt Ports. We'll talk about what the future and where we're going after the ports have been federally recognized and listed and ranked. And then we'll finish up with Dr. Anshu Singh, who will give an update on some of the sustainability aspects of the Corn Belt Ports. And sustainability is the very foundation of the Corn Belt Ports. And I think everyone's aware that the Corn Belt Ports are more than just about traditional inland ports and waterborne commerce. Involves all aspects of multimodal transportation. And I think everyone on the call is aware that Illinois is a significant player in ports and waterways, over $130 billion of total economic output as a result of waterborne commerce and related industries, and a little over $2 billion of tax revenue is generated from this economic output. So whether you're in the government or outside the government, everyone benefits from having the good visibility of the value of waterborne commerce in the state of Illinois. Prior to 2020, there were no, as I mentioned, there were no federally recognized ports inside the lock and dam system. So this gray area, this gray oval, it was just a big black shadow zone or hole. And we wanted to get that fixed in an attempt to try and raise the visibility of the value of waterborne commerce in the region and attract additional investment. This is a screenshot of the National Ports Database. And here again, you can see that there were no ports, which are in this case are designated by blue polygons, GIS polygons. And this is what supports national level decision making. So we were just left off the map, so to speak. And there's over 100 million tons of freight that is actually moved inside of this region. So we just wanted to get on the map and get on the scoreboard. So in 2020 and 2021, the area that's in the designated by the kind of the green box are the ports that we actually were able to get added. We worked with a lot of partners to make this happen, but the good thing is that collectively we were successful in getting every 41 riverfront counties, a 3-state region inside the lock and dam system to be recognized as part of an inland port. And we felt that the farmers in our region definitely needed a principal port of loading, which they never had before from a federal government perspective. And it was very difficult for us to make an argument to invest in our 1,200-foot new 1,200-foot locks and dams, for example. It came across that we were asking for bridges from nowhere. So by creating the ports or at least getting them federally recognized, we could at least say for the first time in history that 1,200-foot locks or investment in our navigation infrastructure connected or created a reliable connection between the ports in the heart of the Corn Belt and global markets. And we could not say that before just because we did not have the ports recognized federally. So we were very successful in 2022 to attract a significant amount of investment. Chris Smith will talk about the specific dollar amounts, but President Biden was able to come to the region and make an announcement that we were making some significant investments in our navigation infrastructure. And one 1,200-foot lock, which many of us had been working to get funded for 15 years, was fully funded, and President Biden was able to make a comment associated with that at a recent meeting in Iowa a few months ago. So consider that a huge success story. And we've had just some tremendous support all along throughout the process to increase investment in our region from both houses of Congress and from the bipartisan elected officials that are in the region. So I just can't say enough about the great support we've enjoyed from our elected officials to get to the point where we are from an investment standpoint. And then I do want to quickly point out that Minnesota and Wisconsin has decided to copy what we've done. And they decided to create a port region between Wisconsin and Minnesota on the Mississippi River. They submitted that application in June. And we welcome their membership to the team. So we're excited about what the possibilities could be there. This slide just overlays the Corn Belt ports that were created and the ones I just recently mentioned with the U.S. Department of Agriculture's corn growing region. And as you can see, the ports that were federally recognized or recognized and ranked align perfectly with the part of the U.S. Corn Belt and the nation's premier grain growing region. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but there are some unique characteristics of our Corn Belt ports. And I just want to highlight a couple of them. All of them are centered on an interstate crossing of the Mississippi River or the Illinois Waterway. And they all are centered on in most cases, they're all centered on they're centered on a metropolitan planning organization. And they also are defined, generally speaking, by the boundaries of existing regional planning agencies. So those are some characteristics that make the Corn Belt ports unique. And every one of the Corn Belt ports is aligned with existing state recognized port boundaries. So we were able to kind of make all of that work when we created or at least we're able to get the ports recognized. And this is just how the 41 counties that are in the Corn Belt ports region that touch the state of Illinois. This is just, these are the 41 riverfront counties that are included. And they're basically divided up into 3 different Corn Belt ports. And I do want to quickly mention some key leaders that are taking things now to the next level after the ports have been created. Dan Silverthorne, he's the chair of the Heart of Illinois Regional Port District. He's the transportation coordinator for the Illinois Ports region. Denise Bulat is the executive director of the Bi-State Regional Commission, and she coordinates efforts in a collaborative way with the 5 regional planning agencies in the state of Iowa and Illinois for the ports of the Upper Mississippi River ports of Iowa and Illinois. And then Mike Norris is the chair of the Mid-America Port Commission. And that's at the confluence basically of the Illinois and Mississippi River and includes the Interstate 72 crossings. And then Bob just joined us, joined the team. He works for the Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And he is leading the planning effort associated with the Northern Grain Belt ports, which we should see recognized within the next few weeks. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the vision of where the collective team sees things going. The purpose of the Corn Belt ports moving forward is to amplify the national and global significance of the development of the largest inland port in the nation and to promote and attract additional investment in the region. It also serves as the local regional ports political constituent link to advance legislative objectives, interface with the media, and then market the Corn Belt Ports region to the National Waterways and Waterborne Commerce organizations. But all of this is really done to attract investment and improve and prioritization for investment in our region. And that is associated with everything from new construction, navigation construction, to lock and dam rehabilitation, to operations and maintenance of our existing infrastructure, to restoring the Mississippi River and also the Illinois Waterway, and then also promote multimodal transportation system improvements that interface with our waterways. So there's a significant aspect of our future and the vision for where we're going that is kind of summarized on this slide, but it all has to do with bringing increased investment in the region. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Smith, who's the operations director for the Corn Belt Ports, and he'll really briefly talk to you about where we're going in the future. And then he'll turn it over to Dr. Anshu Singh for some follow-on comments associated with sustainability. So Chris, over to you.
Thanks, Bob. I'm going to go through some slides rather quickly. You have access to all the slides, so we can just spend time on some Q&A. Within the last year, this is the top line, the investment that came into the region, 1.24 billion, and it's the breakout as it relates to the 3 ports. Next. Some additional funding from the state of Illinois that came into the 3 port regions, roughly 35 million. And again, that's the top line and what was went to each one of those different areas. Next. And then the last piece of investment from the FY22 Omnibus Bill and also the state of Illinois budget, roughly 65 million has again been invested within those 3 port regions. So this is really a good news story. Last year when the FACT card was published, we had representation from each of the 3 port statistical areas, the regional ports, the Mid-America Port, 15 million, Illinois Waterway came in at 14.9, and then the Upper Mississippi or Eastern Iowa and Western Illinois came in at 8.4. You see Northern Grainbelt Ports is also listed. We anticipate that they're going to come in probably in the top 60, somewhere in there. Hopefully we'll have that information soon. Next. What we want to do is Bob talked at a high level, the tonnage flowing, that was moved through the region. And what this chart does, it provides the tonnage on the left-hand side. The right-hand side gives a representation of the lock and dam system in the Upper Mississippi. And what we'll see is, on the Upper Mississippi, roughly 65 million tons through the region. And then of that, more than half of that was represented within the ag communities. Next. The Illinois Waterway tonnage, same 29 million tons in 20, calendar year 20, moved along the Illinois Waterway. Of that, again, a majority of that, or more than half of it, were by the ag communities. Next. Some of our goals collectively that we've identified, and that is to be the equivalent of the top inland port in the nation. And again, our view is, just as we came together as PSAs, port statistical areas, the view is that collectively we come together, we would then represent ourselves as the top inland port in the nation. individually within the top 50 principal ports as it relates to freight tonnage, and then all individually are ranked as a top 10 inland port. And then we're going to talk a little bit in the subsequent slides about the Mid-America Port Commission and the important role that it has within the region, primarily due to the lock and dam system and the new construction that we anticipate to be happening. Some measures of success. We've talked tonnage. In our view, the tonnage equates to the economic value of goods and also the economic value of the region. So with the increased tonnage, again, will demonstrate for the region the economic value. This translates into additional funding, investment, which translates to additional expanded waterborne commerce and river-related companies, to include ecotourism. And then the last one, and Dr. Anshu Singh will talk about it, but the increased movement of freight on the waterways will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So we can measure that in tons moved on the waterways. The lock and dam system is reflected primarily on this slide, the Ohio Basin and also the upper Mississippi. There's 8, soon to be 8, once the Northern Greenbelt ports is approved, but there are 8 port statistical areas within the lock and dam system. And you can get an idea of the amount of tonnage that's moved or that is transported along the system. And these areas are unique, and they differ from your traditional ports. This is a further breakout of the tonnage for each one of the port statistical areas, and the model that we've followed throughout is the Port of Pittsburgh. And we just realized that the Ohio Basin has been doing some good things and attracting a lot of funding. So we're seeing some results and benefits also. So this just breaks out the 8 port statistical areas that are listed in our view, and our goal is that we all remain collectively listed as a top inland port. So within the Mid-America Port Commission, Bob talked a little bit ago about Lock and Dam 25, talked a little bit ago about the funding, the full funding for the construction for Lock and Dam 25. The priority of construction for the lock and dams fall within the Mid-America Port Commission. Roughly, once the funding happens, anticipate $3+ billion coming into the region to support the new construction, to include the millions of dollars that will be provided for ecosystem restoration. So our goal is to continue to support however we can the Mid-America Port Commission, so we can continue to demonstrate the value to the region. On this chart, the big takeaway that we'd like you to have on is this is the capital improvement investment strategy. Funding decisions are made based on that. The takeaway is we don't want to change. The red through the line on the left-hand column, those projects are fully funded. The check mark is the Lock and Dam 25 that we were just talking about. The yellow stars are the Mid-America Port Commission region. The red star is on the Illinois Waterway. So again, the significance of it is what we're seeing now is that for the first time there's a funding line on the annual appropriation. So it's a good news story. I'll turn it over to Dr. Anshu Singh now.
Dr. Singh, you're muted.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more on the importance of ecosystem sustainability programs. In Corn Belt Port region, we have 3 programs. So one is Upper Mississippi River Restoration that mostly focuses on the river channel, Mississippi River and the Illinois River. And other is Illinois River Basin Restoration Program that focuses on restoration efforts of in Illinois River and its tributaries. And then we have this Navigation and Ecosystem Sustainability Program, which is more comprehensive. And it includes Mississippi River and Illinois River Channel, as well as Illinois River and its tributaries. And other than this, it also extends its restoration efforts into the floodplain of both these rivers. And Navigation and Ecosystem Sustainability Program, it's a kind of unique program which has the dual purpose program, which focuses on both the aspects of river navigation as well as ecosystem. And since its inception in 2007, first time in last 15 years, it got funded under Infrastructure and Investment Job Act, which never happened in last 15 years. Next. So on this map, you can see all these NESP projects in our Corn Belt Port region. And this map you can find at US Army Corps of Engineers website. And this is recently updated because all these projects, NESP projects, you can see on the map, they are recently funded and approved only after the federal approval of our Corn Belt ports. So it's very fair to say that the federal recognition of Corn Belt ports have helped in attracting these funding. And we are expecting more NESP projects in coming years because NESP authorization also includes $1.7 billion for restoration efforts in next 15 years. Next. And NESP program is all the more important because we are here in ag dominant region. And as you can see, the data shows that not only in Iowa, but we are in the agriculture region. So most of the 90% of wetlands have been drained for agriculture. And NESP is very important because it will improve the aquatic habitats, which we have deteriorated because of these wetland losses. So that's all about our presentation. And now it's open for questions.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. And people should feel free to please enter any questions in the chat. And I have a question maybe I can start with and ask each of you to maybe ponder this. I was thinking about the infrastructure investments in locks and dams, but I was also pondering, many of us are interested in sort of rural economic development or more generally economic development, and also pondering what might be some of the complementary infrastructure investments we could make in addition to locks and dams. What other sort of downstate Illinois, Iowa investments should we be making?
This is Bob. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I just want to make sure that you could hear me. I do want to just kind of give you some background. When we started this, I think every city, every county that we talked to could, see the benefit in being able to say that they were part of a nationally ranked or federally recognized and ranked port. There's all kinds of opportunities. There's just all kinds of opportunities to actually make that happen, or use that status inside of in grant proposals. They could weave that into marketing for their region. There's a lot of implied infrastructure that comes with a port, logistics infrastructure. So all of the economic development organizations that we talk to, and a lot of the major companies that we talk to in the region, just saw a tremendous amount of benefit from being able to claim something that we've never claimed before, and that is that we were part of nationally ranked, or we had nationally ranked ports in the region. That's just a critical, I think, amplifier of the infrastructure that we have here and the capability that we have here. And I think the sky's the limit on how that status or how that recognition can be used to advance a wide range of economic objectives by the really state and local, or at least the local government organizations, the counties and the cities. Every single county that we talked to, there was someone in the county that said, this is a great idea, or said something to the effect, this is a great idea. Why hasn't, or this should have been done a long time ago, or it should have been done 100 years ago, or why hasn't this been done before? And I just think immediately everyone embraced the benefit. And you can't, and I've said this several times, but you can't invest in a port that doesn't exist. And I think that we've got a lot of creative people out there involved with our economic development activities that can see the benefit and figure out how to leverage this federal recognition to bring more resources and investment back into the region, and just highlight the value of waterborne commerce in general. And there's also, and Chris mentioned it, there's also opportunities to invest on the ecosystem restoration side of things in a way that can improve ecotourism and support other recreation activities, things to all of that economic, or at least there's an economic benefit, regional benefit and local benefit from all this investment that we're talking about. You can't invest $4 billion plus over the next 15 years and have it not be a major improvement to the region. And I agree with you, Chris, that we need to look at the other ways that this recognition can be used to bring in additional investment. We've seen increased state investment in our infrastructure as a result of this. We've also seen increased investment from nonprofit organizations, which we weren't expecting. So we're seeing an uptick in a wide variety of organizations that could bring investment into the region. So I think the sky's the limit. I think our creative economic development folks in the 41 riverfront counties can, they'll figure out, I'm sure, some wonderful ways to leverage this to advance their economic development objectives.
Thanks, Bob. Crystal Elmore asked a question, which if I sort of summarize this, it's a question of contact information. If there are people, private sector or communities that are interested in learning more about maybe even directing some direct investments related to this initiative, who would they contact?
Yes, I think on the first slide, there are email addresses associated with the people that I introduced, and I think they could be addressed to either Chris or Anshu or myself, and we would be happy to get back with anyone that wants further information. And I believe these slides are going to be posted or available online after the presentation.
That's great. Thank you. I have another. I can keep on asking questions. I think it's because I think it's a great initiative. One of the questions I was pondering is, you're directing a lot of investment, or you've been, really a catalyst for investment in the Upper Mississippi and Illinois River. Presumably, there's going to be more job growth, even within the inland waterway sector. I was wondering what the workforce development challenges might be. What kind of, so I work at a University of Illinois is hosting this. So I think universities have an interest in this. I wonder what kind of training you can foresee in general, if we're going to bolster inland waterways, what kind of jobs do we need to be training for?
think it's a great question. All of the Corn Belt ports, based upon a recent inland marine transportation system planning study by the state of Illinois, indicate there's going to be increased growth in tonnage on our three ports regions. So that, and I think there's going to be increased focus and emphasis on containerized cargo. So just because of the way things are evolving on the inland waterway systems. So I think anything associated with the transition from bulk cargo to containerized cargo and the workforce development requirements associated with that, I think would be something that the region would want to focus on. In addition to just the kind of the traditional bulk cargo handling skills and education that has been required for years.
Another question I have is about new technologies. So I think when I think about locks and dams, in some ways that's an older technology, at least conceptually. But clearly we're thinking the 21st century. We're generating a ton of data. Is automation, how will data flows affect inland waterways in the future?
Yeah, I think that is the very foundation of why we created, why we, a big collective, we created the Corn Belt ports and got them federally recognized. We wanted accurate decisions to be made based upon the freight tonnage that we were handling in on the Illinois Waterway and the upper Mississippi River systems. And we just didn't have that. We could get it. And the Waterborne Commerce Statistics Center is just a wonderful organization to work with. They manage that for the nation, but we wanted it on an annual basis. We wanted logical transportation regions or port regions to be federally listed and ranked so that we knew where we were in regard to movement of freight on our waterways. So informed decisions can be made by the regional planning agencies and the counties, everyone that's involved with advancing things regionally. And I think that and there's a train going by right now, so that's part of our logistics system. I don't know if you can hear that or not. But anyway, I think the next step is to improve just make some continued improvements and enhancements on how we manage data, how we track data. So more informed decisions can be made in a timely manner and a better understanding and appreciation for how the inland waterway navigation system and associated transportation infrastructure really impacts movement of goods in and out of the region. And I think that's just kind of it's a picture that could be improved to support decision making. And with the new, or I shouldn't say new, but with the geographic information systems and decision support systems that are available for us today, there's just a lot of opportunities to be able to kind of lash those capabilities with movement of goods in the Corn Belt ports region and inside the lock and dam system to support a wide variety of improved decision-making for our region. And I think everyone will benefit from the having that more accurate picture of freight tonnage movement.
Thank you. And Silvis asked, in your opinion, would containerized cargo help to diversify the agricultural economy, for example, allowing producers to develop new markets?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's clearly a lot of interest in using containers to move agricultural products and goods for a lot of different reasons. Some of the higher value ag products just move a lot better, and the goods arrive in a better condition or condition more desirable for our trading partners. And so I see a big increase in interest in that. And then things such as windmills, wind turbines to generate electricity, moving those by barge or by water, that is considered containerized cargo too. So I think there's a lot of non-standard containerized cargo that can be moved on our waterways. And I think it's probably worth spending a little bit of time and effort to see what kind of opportunities there could be realized, using some new technologies maybe, and incorporating maybe some new methods and some new transportation methods, and actually maybe making some modifications to our barges, and maybe even some towboats out there, so that they can be modified to move different types of cargo or containerized cargo.
Thank you. You had mentioned earlier in your presentation about intermodal transportation and how inland waterways will connect to other modes of the supply chain. And Stephanie Mitnick asked, inland ports typically work hand in hand with rail. How are your railroad partners positioning to meet their goals and goals of the ports?
Yeah, I think that's something that needs to continue to evolve. That relationship's very important. I don't know of too many terminals on our waterways inside the lock and dam system that do not have rail access. So I think that's just a natural relationship, logistics relationship. And I just think by the recognition of the Corn Belt ports and now organizing stakeholders around the 3 Corn Belt ports region to advance a wide variety of logistics and infrastructure objectives, I just think it opens up more opportunities for road and rail and waterways to work more closely together and develop plans and make investment that actually improves the multimodal or intermodal transportation capability of a particular region. So nothing but good things are going to come from a closer relationship with the other, with all the transportation areas, to road, rail, and that would even include air. We have a few key air nodes inside the lock and dam system that there could be some nice connections between the waterways and things that are happening at some of our airports.
Thank you. Another question about a very specific geography. Does it make sense to build another port below Dubuque at the old Savannah Army Depot? Would that dilute the resources available? Would the benefits outweigh the environmental impacts?
Well, clearly I think the benefits would outweigh the environmental impact. That's kind of in a region that's kind of referred to as the Upper Mississippi River Fish and Wildlife Refuge. But if you look at, then there's just a void in northwest Illinois when it comes to terminals in the region, there's 50 terminals that serve eastern Iowa and only about 20 that serve northwest Illinois or across the river in Illinois. Clearly a lot of opportunity to increase waterborne commerce, and at least from our perspective, the decrease in greenhouse gas emissions alone is enough to warrant investment in that region to create some terminals that could be accessed by the barges and towboats and barges that serve the region. I would say that is an underserved area and region. I think the former Army Savannah Depot is just a perfect location. It was a logistics center for many years, serving the Department of Defense. So a lot of infrastructure is already there that just can be utilized to help turn that region in that area into a more capable regional logistics center. So I don't see any environmental downside. I've actually been there and visited the site, and I think that's probably a great area to focus on to realize some improvements and some benefits in the very short term.
Thank you. Another interesting question about local support for port development. Dustin Fritsch asks, how do you see economic incentives, for example, opportunity zones. One could imagine enterprise zones, local tax increment financing districts, interacting or spurring with investment in the port district.
Yeah, I think the sky is the limit on all of that. I think we have, I think we're just in a great position now. A lot of people didn't realize that, our 3 Corn Belt ports, or ports in the heart of the Corn Belt, are larger than the Port of Miami, and larger than the Port of Brownsville, Texas, and larger than the Port of Boston, larger than the Port of Vancouver, USA. Some of these ports that people, recognize, these port names, larger than the Port of Galveston in some cases. So I think, I just think we just need to grab a hold of that designation and then figure out how to leverage that to advance a wide variety of economic development opportunities for our region. So whether it's an economic development zone, or there's so many different things that can be done to bring additional investment in the region. And I would argue that that we have been underinvested in for so long that by getting the federal designation as a port and getting ranked as federally ranked as ports, and we've got last year for the first time, or the Mid-America Port Commission for the first time in its history, as a result of this effort, has been recognized by Global Trade Magazine as a top 50 power port based on tonnage. We're going to see that designation this year for the Illinois Waterway too. That has power just to be competitive, or at least listed with some of the major ports in the United States, major coastal ports. So I just think there's going to be an increased business interest, increased interest in relocating capabilities here from a wide variety of industries, just because of the designation that we received.
Thank you. I guess we have about 10 more minutes. I have one more question. I have another question, and I guess it's a little bit related to a previous life you had as a colonel working for the Army Corps of Engineers and with oversight in the Quad Cities area. So obviously, you bring just decades of experience with the inland waterways. And I also know that the Army Corps of Engineers, has an idea about what global climate change could mean, and so that Army Corps has embraced the idea that something should be done. And then I'm also, sort of interested in that Dr. Singh, brings a sort of a sustainability science perspective. So clearly, you have this overarching, holistic approach of what the inland waterways are. They're a driver of economic development, but they're also an ecosystem. At least that's how I perceive your philosophy about things. But how do you think then the Corn Belt ports could help with the idea of managing global climate change?
Well, there's a huge resiliency aspect of what we've done, or the inland waterway system, or the locks and dams. And the lock and dam system itself was not designed for this, but our river systems will not run dry. So there's a climate resiliency aspect of that we have now. So we have dependable water sources along our rivers. We do not have the massive fish kills that happen on the Colorado River when they have low water. We just don't, because both the Illinois Waterway and the Upper Mississippi River remained at a 9-foot, a 9-foot depth to support navigation. But that's a big plus for the region from a climate resiliency standpoint. And Dr. Singh is probably one of the world's leading experts on interagency integrated water resources management, trying to figure out how to make all the different demands on our limited water resources work in a way that supports like an enduring, sustainable approach to things. So I'm going to turn it over to her and have her comment further on that.
So yeah, Illinois River and Upper Mississippi River, and we all know, like I talked about navigation and ecosystem sustainability program, and Congress have designated our upper Mississippi River system as like nationally significant ecosystem as well as the navigation ecosystem. So we are expecting more funds for NESP, and I'm sure we will be working more closely with Illinois and Iowa and Missouri DNR to identify those projects for ecosystem restoration, where we can have a better navigation, but at the same time, we can also work on the ecosystem restorations.
That's great. I have yet another question. How do you see, so I'm just kind of pondering the idea of tourism. Obviously, this emphasis is being driven by tonnage shipped, and so that's the economic driver. But I have a sense that there's an underappreciated element of tourism along the Illinois and along. I mean, I know locally it's a big thing. There's marinas and so forth. But is there a way that the Corn Belt ports can enhance sort of the recreational dimension of the Mississippi and the Illinois rivers?
Yeah, I think the beauty of the Corn Belt ports is they were designed around regional planning agencies. My experience working with all of our regional planning agencies is that they value that economic driver, regional driver, and I think they'll advance that. The Upper Mississippi River Basin Association, I think, has done a good job of identifying the actual value of the environment from a recreation standpoint. And I would probably invite people to visit their website if they're interested, the Upper Mississippi River Basin Association. They have done some nice economic analysis studies of the region, and I think it gives a pretty good indication of the value and the potential. But there is clearly unrealized potential from a recreation standpoint, and we definitely are very interested in taking the millions of dollars worth of increased investment for ecosystem restoration in the region and figure out how to locally or regionally, taking a few counties working together within the framework of regional planning agencies to kind of weave all that together and in a way that advances the recreation opportunities in the region. And that just benefits everyone. We're a big proponent of nature, obviously, and there's just a lot of economic benefit from further developing, if you will, our natural resources in a way that supports both people and nature. And but in the end, we all benefit from advancing ecotourism or recreation activities along our rivers and waterways.
That's great. Thank you. Part of that question was spurred by I've seen the USDA, I think it's Economic Research Service. They categorize counties by they have an amenity score. How the natural amenities, and the Midwest doesn't do that well. But I think that they just really somehow have missed out on how important and how lovely actually the Mississippi and Illinois rivers are. And they're a great amenity, yes, for economic development, but obviously for for hunting and fishing and just enjoying nature. We are almost to the end of our hour. I'm going to ask if there's any other questions from our audience. One final request for questions. I'm not seeing any, so I'm just going to take the opportunity to say thank you, Bob, for your leadership on the Corn Belt Ports Initiative, and of course, Chris Smith and Anshu Singh as well. Really enjoyed your presentation, and thank you.
Thank you.